Awesome. So, hi there, everybody. Welcome to Give Live. I'm here with my co-host, Rachel D. of Geek Unicorn and Dr. Kimberly Clay of Play Like a Girl. Give Live is our way of engaging in conversation with folks using GiveWP for online fundraising, as well as highlighting folks in the nonprofit and wellness and WordPress community. I'm Amanda Gorman, Customer Success Manager at GiveWP, and I'm so excited to be here to talk about Play Like a Girl, a charitable organization inspiring girls through sport and active play. We'll dive deep into Play Like a Girl's mission, the fundraising strategy on their website, and all about their CEO and founder, Dr. Kimberly Clay. To start off, I'd love to hear from my co-host, Rachel. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do at Geek Unicorn.
Okay, thanks so much, Amanda. Well, as you said, I'm Rachel and I'm the owner of Geek Unicorn, and we are a women-led web design company in Canada, and we work mostly with women-led businesses and organizations on their branding, web design, and online presence to help them stand out online like a unicorn in a field of horses. So that's a little bit about me. But enough about that. I want to jump right into Play Like a Girl. So, Dr. Kim, please tell us, what was the ethos of Play Like a Girl and how has that shifted now to this kind of new vision of helping girls get into STEM roles?
Yeah, I'm often asked the origin story, so I've told it so many times, which is kind of shocking to most people often, that Play Like a Girl was never intended to be a nonprofit. It was a classroom project that took on a life of its own and continued to thrive on the shoulders of volunteers, honestly. And I'm excited because we're celebrating with a memorial scholarship in a week or so, one of those volunteers who lost her life to cancer a couple of years ago. So she was one of those key people who kept this thing going that started with the intention to really focus on the issue of overweight and obesity and how it is the precursor to most chronic illnesses and disease, specifically heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, which at the time was my primary day work. I started my career at CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and I had returned to school to get my PhD in public health. It was a classroom project to create an intervention that was community focused and it addressed a public health problem. And my area at the time happened to be breast and cervical cancer, which was on the rise among women of color in Alabama. So that's kind of how we started. And over the years, because it was kept alive much longer than I had intended, we did incorporate 2 years later. So we started in 2004, incorporated as a 501c3 in 2006. And in 2014, lo and behold, I get an email from an event planner who works with ESPN and produces their ESPN W Women and Sports Summit. And that year was awarding a number of grants to organizations, specifically women that they recognize as everyday heroes, women who were keeping women and girls active in sport. And honestly, because I was focused on public health and overweight and obesity and how physical activity was a conduit to getting girls and women active, I'd never considered, even though we were running tennis programs here in Dallas, which is where I am now, I'd never considered what we were doing sport until ESPN calls and says, "You're doing sport."
Yeah.
And that was the transformative moment for us, for thinking of ourselves as a sport organization and as the conduit, right, to being able to truly make change for girls. And in 2015, 16, I returned to that same summit where ESPN and Ernst & Young revealed some new data from a global study that they had conducted with 400 women in the C-suite. So executive women, CEOs, COOs, CIOs, even across the world. And 94% of those 400 plus women globally responded to this survey indicating that they had played sport at some point during their lives.
Wow.
52% of them had played through college. And that was the moment for me that I think everything really changed in how I perceived our work. Again, starting from physical health as a conduit to getting women active and preventing overweight and obesity, which was the precursor to chronic illness, to now what we're doing in the space of STEM, connecting those skills that girls gain from sport participation, from that to now helping to use those skills to propel them forward in a male-dominated career space other than sport, but one that also has the ability to potentially break the intergenerational cycle of poverty for many girls who themselves may not have been able to access the same information some other way. So that was the defining moment for us in 2014, 15, 16 that really changed the trajectory of Play Like a Girl and the work that we're doing now. So that's how we got here.
I love that. And I love that you kind of just took a step based on, you know, something you were doing and then allowed that to snowball and see the opportunities and go, oh, hey, yeah, and see the connections. And then now you've got this big, beautiful organization doing wonderful things, helping girls not only with their confidence and leadership, but then preparing them for these bigger roles in life, which is so great. So that confidence and leadership part is those key skills that Play Like a Girl embodies in its programs. But what are some specific examples of how playing a sport translates into leadership qualities, especially in STEM roles?
Yeah. So we actually, in our programming, our curriculum is based on 10 Play Like a Girl principles. We start with Know Where You're Going, which is really about SMART goal setting, you know, taking girls through the acronym of, you know, specific, measurable, I'm not so smart today, attainable, realistic, and time specific, right? But one of the goals or principles somewhere in the middle that we really deal with is using your failure as fuel, using your failure as fuel, because what we also recognize is that the middle school years, when girls are twice as likely to drop out of sport, likewise as likely to also lose interest in STEM, that is when girls' confidence is plummeting. So for us, when we look at, you know, why is it that girls drop out? Why is it that girls start to lose interest? It is not because of a lack of aptitude or ability. It's often because they do not see themselves reflected in sport and STEM because of lack of diversity and inclusion and equity and representation. But the other is that, you know, it's been shown in a number of studies that girls seem to get paralyzed over fear alone, that I'm not going to do that because, one, I've never seen anyone else be successful who looked like me, or just in general, it's not something I'm familiar with. So I'm not going that route, or I've tried it before and I failed, and I don't want to necessarily do it again. So what we talk about with our girls is recognizing that, one, everything we do has STEM embedded in it. So we often message that STEM is everywhere and in everything. So it's even in your sport, it's even in the element of confidence and leadership. So we really talk about resiliency within the framework of the engineering design process. So just like a researcher who creates a prototype or some type of discovery, right, some innovation, they go through this process of testing. And sometimes, often, I'll tell you as a scientist, the test initially fails and you have to go back through that iterative process again to try something different, try something new until you actually come to a win. And so, you know, we've seen it even with the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, there's been tries, and then eventually there's something that they found to stick with vaccinations. And so that's not because they started at the beginning of the pandemic. It's because they were doing this work years before, and that there were vaccinations that had proven, you know, to work with other types of diseases, that they had something that they could believe in. So the same is true for girls and women and all people when it comes to the confidence that we have that comes out of the work that we do in sport in particular, is that, you know, maybe you didn't score the game-winning, you know, point, or you were the opposite. You were the one who caused the team to lose. And there's that feeling of lack of success or failure related to that. Well, the challenge is to learn the lesson associated with it. And we talk about it as, you know, the comeback, the bounce back, the resiliency necessary to go back into the engineering process and to try again until you get it right. And that ultimately, again, using your fear as failure. I mean, I keep saying failure, using your failure as fuel really helps to overcome the fear factor that many girls report when asked why it is that they don't face those things that, tend to stand between them and the things that they seek to accomplish. And in that study with those 400 women, there were questions around kind of what are the factors that contribute to women in, these C-suite positions success over time. And many of them attribute all of the failures that they had in sport and learning to be resilient, learning teamwork, how to bring and rally folks together who maybe played in different positions or had different roles on the team as really critical in being able to transfer those skills into the workplace. And so that's really what we're attempting to do much earlier with middle school girls.
That's incredible. And I love all of that. And even, and the teaching resilience and to not be afraid of the failure, and to not be so hard on yourself. And I imagine within the sport, there's other things like that translates really well, like learning to listen to coaches and practice makes permanent and all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah. So we have a couple of other, again, we have 10 principles, and one is know your strengths. So we really focus on, identifying where your strong suit is, so that you can also identify where my girls term it as stretches, the things that stretch you, the things where you need to be stretched. And then the subsequent principle that the girls engage around is know when to ask for help.
Yes.
So
rely on your teammates.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where the coach also comes in. And we use a mentoring model. Our program is called Meet and Mentor, which has been phenomenal during COVID to keep our girls connected with the women volunteers who support our organization, but also to build our visibility and grow our organization across the US as opposed to what was a more finite specific market in Nashville. And with that program, that mentoring piece, the role models and mentors are in essence coaches for the girls. So they're not necessarily on the field or on the court, but they're taking their own experience as former athletes or current athletes and overlaying their career experience for girls to also be able to map out for them, the path to ultimately a STEM career.
That's so great. Well, I know Amanda has some other questions too for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing all that. I can just hear the passion in your voice, and you just feel connected to the cause just by hearing you speak. And it's so awesome to really feel this sense of community coming through and all the offerings that you have. And I know that your focus is on these 5th and 6th grade girls and really making sure that pivotal age is being taken care of. And that sense of community is probably so important for them, just as you've already spoken about. But I'm wondering about the different clinics and camps and this mentorship and all these different ways that you're able to access girls and provide access. Maybe this point about making the programs accessible. What do you vision for the future for Play Like a Girl in that respect?
Yeah, so I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'll say that we are in the final days of preparing to announce a pretty big national partnership with a brand, and we're rolling out new programming in new markets. We're taking Meet and Mentor on the road. So I encourage people to visit our website and get the details about that. We'll be in Tulsa, Oklahoma later this month. We'll be in Memphis, which is not too far up the road from us, which I actually grew up outside of Memphis in North Mississippi. And then we'll be down in the Katy, Houston area in Texas as well. I mention that because it is our partnership with corporations that really helps us to build and sustain the community. We rely heavily, when I talk about volunteers, I'm not just talking community volunteers. We have really strong partnerships with women's networks or ERGs or employee resource groups within companies. And again, large and small companies. And many aren't even formal women's groups, many are not even formal ERGs, and not all of them even are limited to women. We actually have a number of men who partner and volunteer with Play Like a Girl. We've got 2 of them on our board of directors, one with Bridgestone and the other with the Tennessee Titans. And so community is huge in that we really build and sustain our community through our mentoring and our membership base, specifically through these partnerships with companies. But the other element is that we've really done a great job, I think, in building a core group of volunteers in the recent year to 2 years in the young professional space. We have a formal young professionals network now that are really our boots on the ground. They are the ones who are most passionate about this work and again, wanting to ensure that the work continues to go forward and that we're advancing the mission and reaching more women and girls. And they're doing it through service. And honestly, there are two amazing women who lead that group, Channing Moreland and Akilah Reed here in Nashville, or there in Nashville. And they have been, just absolutely phenomenal in bootstrapping it and building community inward by first engrafting friends and coworkers, and from there, people expanding the network to grow outward to other individuals and bringing those folks in. So it's been a combination of things. And as mentioned, we continue to evolve like so many other businesses as well.
That's so exciting. Awesome. I love your slogan at the top of your donation page, giving is a team sport. So how does that slogan help build community and keep your mission moving forward?
Yeah, what in life is not a team sport, right? So, it is essentially, I think, critical that donors don't necessarily see their impact as a one-off. For us, we want to engage our donors at a deeper, broader, more meaningful level of impact. And that's honestly where Give came in for us, where, the plugin has really helped to facilitate us being able to do just that. If it were not for, and I'm sure there are other platforms out there, whatever, we're not talking about them today, but we've grown with the WP Give plugin. We started with, what was basic and free at the very beginning. And over time, as, more updates were added, more features, we kind of grew with you all. And so once we brought on the YP network, the Young Professionals Network in particular, we also started to rethink membership. So, recurring monthly donations, because now we had the ability to actually be able to offer it as an option to our donors. So that's honestly where we really focus our efforts. So we have our Young Professionals Network, which includes a monthly investment of $35 or more. But then we have what we call our squad. Our squad are those monthly donors who dig deep into their pockets and give that $35, $50, or even more than that on a monthly basis to support our sustainability as an organization, but to also really get behind the programming. And so those individuals who give as a part of the squad, they now get a separate email. We do our general broadcast email, which is kind of evergreen every month. But then we also do a specific impact email report quarterly to squad members, where they get the option and opportunity to really see inwardly what the impact of their gift is. We are sharing now once a month a story email as well that follows the story of a girl or a mentor or someone else who is also being impacted by that one gift. So building community, giving being a team sport is not just a slogan. For us, it is an intentional way of being, that we want our donors to not necessarily, put it on recurring and walk away, but we want to be able to keep the flow of communication going so that they know the impact of the gift. And then when there's a call to action to upgrade the gift or to, get involved in some other type of way, such as actively, engaging with our girls as a mentor or a volunteer, or even taking Play Like a Girl to their company, school, or community, they have a personal experience and story to tell that, again, makes it a lot easier for those things to happen.
Yeah, that's great. I imagine your mentors and your volunteers are all filled with, like you mentioned, athletes or former athletes. So somebody like me Never on a sports team. I did musical theater. Um, is there a room? Is there a place for someone who's never been in sports to
Absolutely, because you're
participate?
looking at her. You're looking at her.
Good.
I often tell as a part of the origin story, how I got into the work that I did at the time in cancer and public health is I grew up the fat kid in my family. I was the only one who was not athletically motivated. Let's say it that way. My brothers and my sister played sports, and for me, I identified with my population from the beginning. So yes, it is very intentional for me to ensure not only do we represent non-athletes in the work that we do, but we also represent non-STEM related careers as well. Because what I recognize is that while yes, it is the work that we're doing is needed for the girl who's actively engaged in sport, it's also equally or even more important for the girl who is not actively engaged in sport. While it's important for us to put girls on a path toward a career in STEM, I also recognize that not every girl is going to end in a STEM career. So for us, it's important to provide balance so that they also see individuals who started with no athletic background, who somehow later in life became an athlete. Me, I'm hosting a golf tournament on Monday. I'm actually going to hit some balls. They may not necessarily land in the hole, but I've been working on it. I grow consistently as well. Have lost 70 pounds in this last year as a result of growing and walking, so I might not be the Olympic athlete or the elite athlete, but like Nike says, everybody is an athlete. We're all athletes because we encompass the tool necessary for movement. And that's the message for us, is that we're all athletes. The second piece of that, again, is recognizing that for those girls who won't go the path of STEM, is that we have a unique opportunity to still engage them, mentor them, and guide them in ways that perhaps they would not have that. And so by including women and men who aren't necessarily in STEM careers, we can, again, open the door. However, because our core message is that STEM is in everything and is everywhere, we also relate for them where those jobs that are non-STEM intersect with STEM, so that they also see that while you may not necessarily work in a core area in STEM, is that your work at some point crosses the work of someone else who's in STEM as well.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, STEM is and everything. Like, I remember learning about parabolas in high school and being like, when am I ever going to use this again? But it'll come up in like the randomest times. So like certainly like math and science, how things work, and technology. Even just being on this Zoom call, you may have never really think about that technology aspect, but there it is.
Yeah. And, for one of the projects that we are doing with our new partner in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's largely focused on fly fishing and the great outdoors. But there's a whole mechanical piece behind the making and designing of, and testing even, of the rods and the reels that you use. It's not as simple as take something off of a shelf in a local big box store. Like, there is a science behind the specific rods and reels for that particular sport. For another, we'll be at one of the minor league baseball teams' stadiums. And we'll be talking specifically about, women architects and how they actually contribute to the building of these massive, amazing sports facilities that we enjoy. But behind that, yes, there's the elements of math and design and, the creative on that side, but then also in the game itself, think about the physics, the math, the analytics, the data, the statistics. Like, there's STEM that runs across everything, from literally, what, the dietitian and the chef, prepares as the players' meals to ensure that they can perform at their peak. So, again, we all are doing STEM at the end of the day. Something about the work that we're doing is STEM related. I mean, literally down to a softball uniform. It's all STEM, and which is for us why we opt to not use STEAM to limit ourselves. We use STEM and a plus sign to say that there is so much more out there when it comes to innovation and creativity that really should be included in what we see and consider as STEAM, and it's ever evolving. We know research is there, computer science and coding, which our girls are doing this summer as a part of our partnership with Girls Who Code. So it's amazing, and there are no limits. That's the other message that we really try to send to our girls, is that their potential is limitless, and it's our job to try to, inspire them in that direction as well.
That's so good. I love that everything's STEM and everybody has a body. Everyone's an athlete. It's like if you have a body, you have a bikini body,
Yeah. Summer, that hot summer girl body or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I got one of those.
Everybody has a summer body. Yeah. That's so good. So I don't have any specific data, but I know the numbers are pretty bleak for women, especially in technical roles and technical positions, software development, web development, like all those kinds of areas, programming. Do you, as an organization, do you have any numbers that you're working towards? Like in the next 10 years, we want to see a bump up of 5% or something like that.
Yeah. So one, as a baseline, what we know is that in the field of STEM, specifically technology in that space as well, computer science being another, is that, while the industry is growing overall, because we know the direction that we're going in the world, right? A more connected, hence connected and innovative world, that one in the US, such that we can compete globally, is that as the industry grows, women are still underrepresented. We remain to be, talk about bleak, less than a quarter of the workforce in STEM is female. So one, we are building a diverse pipeline towards that number, increasing that number. So that's one of our primary goals. In terms of over the next 3 to 5 to 7, 10 years, ultimately strategic planning, our big focus is now starting to maturate our program to capture the girls who have subsequently graduated our program and gone to college. Because again, we work primarily in middle school. So it's important now for us to be able to map forward the bridge, right? Getting our girls from middle school to high school to college, ultimately so that we can see what the true impact of this work is. And I'm excited to say that this is the first year that we're actually seeing some of the first of our girls who enrolled in the 4th grade. And in fact, one of them, Hannah Selders in Dallas, is our college intern this year. And she started with us in the 4th grade, and she's a college intern in a STEM career. So the big focus for us is building out our alumni program. We touch about 1,250 girls and women a year. We'd love to sustain those numbers, because what we recognize, of course, like every other organization, we made a dip during COVID, resting somewhere in the 800s for the most recent data that we've just been able to synthesize. So for us, number wise, we're not driven by numbers of people we want to touch. We want to continue to maintain that impact, but also grow it, of course. And then also we want to grow our footprint, which is why these national partnerships are so important. We get constant requests to take Play Like a Girl programming into other markets. And most people don't know, which is why Give, is so important. We are a 1-woman, 2-woman show. It's me and my assistant, Hannah, who do all of the day-to-day operational work. And I've done it now full-time, 11 years without a salary. So a big focus for me when we talk about numbers is really about sustainability and scale. So to get there, however, we have to focus on building our staff. from hired professional staff, paid individuals. So that's really where I'm going to be focused over the next probably 18 to 24 months, to position the organization, one, to replace me as its CEO, because that is good growth. And then to also build out our development team, which is going to be critical to, again, truly maximizing what we're able to accomplish with Give.
Yeah, I love that. And that transitions really well into how, like, so you've been using Give WP now for a while. So
Yeah.
how has it been helping you reach those goals in terms of like hiring on the proper staff to be able to capture this national vision, which is so needed? Like, I'm just falling more and more in love with your program and wishing I was in sports when I was a kid.
So
But
I think one of the critical ways I ended by mentioning, growing a real development team, because Hannah and I pretty much do everything ourselves.
yeah.
We have supportive board of directors, but they have day jobs. We have volunteers, but they have day jobs.
Yeah.
But again, both our board and our volunteers also assume functions and roles that would be assigned to an everyday employee.
Mhm.
So one, that's how we make it happen. It's not just that she and I just do everything alone. We have the support of these volunteers. However, in the area of development, in the interim, Give has been so instrumental because it has allowed us a structured way to actually cultivate and retain donors. Because for the first time, one, on the back end, we actually can export reports. We actually integrate those reports with Little Green Light, which is our CMS for donor management. And then we're able to engage with our donors, as I mentioned before, especially those on the recurring side, but those even for one time, where we're now able to actually plan and structure and then implement fundraising campaigns throughout the year, in particular for Giving Tuesday. In the city of Nashville, we also have the Big Payback, which is our 24-hour giving day in the city and Middle Tennessee. And then we also have a structured and organized end of year campaign. But throughout the year, we're also doing fundraising campaigns. And so our Give plugin supports that as well. So for us, Give has been instrumental in creating structure on so many levels that we would not otherwise have, because we don't have the staff to necessarily support in a development function. So it's been instrumental because it's our person. It's our person.
That's so good. And I remember when I first worked with Give WP, it was just so easy. So like, if you're there doing all the thing, well, you have some people doing some things, but you're still you're captain of the ship. You've got a bunch of other things to do. Give WP made it so turnkey, so easy to get up and running, so that you can now start taking those doing those fundraisers and having that those squads.
And the other piece to that is the receipt program, right?
Mhm.
And the ability for the donor to also have access and control of their own profile. So when we get a request that, hey, I need to change the credit card on file, or I need to change my recurring donation, to be able to send folks a link where they can click and utilize their email address to get access to all of their stuff, make changes, download their giving report at any point in the year, and then get an annual tax receipt. We don't have the people power to be able to generate those things. And so Give WP is just, again, solve that problem until we have, people to take us to the next level of development.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that it's been such a solid foundation for you, especially with such a small team. It's crucial to have the tools that are going to back you up and make sure that you're succeeding your daily goals. So I'm so glad it's been helpful. And you've mentioned the ways that you've connected with your recurring donors and your community to keep that engagement over the long term. And I wonder where your vision is, and if there's any things that have come up in your mind of ways that you can tweak that system as you've learned how recurring donors are responding to your messaging and to your marketing and your impact updates. I'm just wondering if you have anything to share about that.
I think two things. One, storytelling. There is so much value in telling the story of the people who are most impacted or directly impacted by the donor. the donor's gift. I have gotten such positive feedback from folks who also are in the nonprofit space who will send me a note and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that, you're a team of two and your giving statements are this organized, or, that you have a thank you page that includes a thank you message after the donor gives, with an opportunity for them to actually give you feedback in a survey." Like, those, again, and then be able to say to us what it is that they want to get more of, which is really critical, to being able to tell that story and keep the donor connected to their gift in some way and the impact that that gift is making. So storytelling is a big focus for me, and how we market, promote, and tell our own larger story. The second piece is that donors want to see also how we will sustain the work. So one of the strategic things that I've done this last year is shift away from programmatic grants to more general operating. And so our WP focus has really been, our Give WP focus has really been about messaging that those recurring donations are really for the support of our general operating and the sustainability of the organization. So it's going to be critical in the next, 6 to 9 month window for us to produce those jobs, because that's what they've been giving for. Yes, ultimately, the people do the work on the programming side to make impact on the lives of the girls, which Hannah and I have been able to do with the help of volunteers and mentors and those corporate partners. But as an organization, we have got to answer to what we said we were doing with the funds. We've got to make good on the promise that we're hiring paid professional staff. So for me, it is kind of a full circle in that all of this is connected, because that is a key indicator to a donor that, one, you are honest and consistent with what it is that you say you're going to do, and that, two, you can actually deliver on the things that you promise.
That's great. So if anybody was listening now live or listening to the recording, what is that one thing you want them to go do right now to help support Play Like a Girl?
Yeah, definitely. Go to our website, because giving is a team sport. Indeed.
Yeah, get on the team.
Yeah, iplaylikeagirl.org give. Right now, we're in the heart of our first ever golf tournament, Play Like a Girl in the Green, next Monday in Nashville. So there are so many interesting ways and diverse ways to give, from, just giving on the website to, the folks who've already registered and have teams, to we've got text to give. And then we also have a mobile auction that we're running where people can get some cool swag and, memorabilia in the sports space for some of their, top key athletes. But the more important piece is that page on our site for mentoring. Our mentoring program is shut down for the summer because we run our camps and we're doing our other programming in the other markets, but we'll be back up in the fall. And one of the things that we were afforded the opportunity to do during the pandemic is to expand our community of mentors to over 1,500 women nationwide. Wow. And so I have a commitment that while that program is run virtually during the pandemic, is that will be the one program that will continue, such that girls anywhere in the country can participate, such that volunteer mentors anywhere in the country can continue to participate. So I encourage parents to sign up, go fill out a form on our website, send us your information, say you're interested, and we'll put your girls on the list. In terms of age ranges and girls that we target, middle school, which in our city is grades 5 through 8, or ages 10 to 13. So if your girls fit those categories, please send us a note and we will put them on a list, you and mom and girl, to reach out to. And then again, women and men in STEM and non-STEM careers, athletes and non-athletes alike, go ahead and go to our mentor page and actually sign up. It's a quick little form that includes name, email address, and company. And we'll put you on the list to get the information once mentoring reopens for the fall. I think that is one of the most impactful ways that folks can give. When we talk about giving, it's not necessarily in the cash that we exchange from hand to hand.
That's great. And because your mentorship is virtual, does that mean somebody like me who's Canadian can join up as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Kim, it's been so fantastic to talk to you. I'm loving everything. And I really encourage anyone who's listening to go to the website and participate in any way you can. If that's a mentorship, great. But if not, make a one-time donation or make get on the squad and be that recurring donator, because this is just such a wonderful, much needed program for girls in STEM. Like, I work in the STEM field and I can tell you this program is much needed. Was there anything else that we wanted to share
No,
or
I
cover,
just wanted
Amanda?
to
Or
say thank you to Amanda and the team at Give WP. You all have been a lifesaver for a small little nonprofit that many think is much larger than we are, but we're doing big girl stuff in terms of the impact that we're having in the lives of girls. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Oh, the respect is totally all sent your way. Thank you for doing the incredible work that you are doing in the world. I can speak from myself. I would love to have had this when I was in that age range. So I just know, I know so many people that would benefit from this. So now that I know that you're there, it's an excellent support system that you've created. So thank you for your great work, and let us know how we can support you. And thank you for being here today with us and sharing your valuable time. Thank you, Rachel, for being an awesome co-host. And we're going to do a recap of this webinar on our website, on our blog. It'll be shared there in a few days. So whoever's watching, make sure that you check out the recap. And thank you for everyone that's attended. And just thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.